New digital technologies are driving a step change in enterprise business transformation. At the Digital Twin Podcast, we explore the intersection of technology and business. What should your digital twin look like?
Welcome to the Digital Twin Podcast. Your hosts, Ari and Omar, back at it. And I have to say, this topic really, it's a unique topic, but it's one that I don't think gets a lot of serious thought and understanding. And, you know, when we came up with this or when we thought about this, we really internally said, hey, let's tease this out. Let's really figure out what this really means, right? And when we talk about SaaS models or the way of the future of everything as a service, how does that affect the overall customer experience, right? And is it really for the customer, right? The question is this model really for the customer or is this for something else?
Is it customer driven or is it technology driven?
But this is where it gets a little interesting. This is where, you know, you try to understand, you know, the rationale and the pros and cons of these types of models, behaviors, because it's not just about a commercial model. It's also about a development model, a customer acquisition, how you keep customers using your product without even actually owning it. If you think about it, they don't really own the product whatsoever.
They don't.
They don't.
And data is not in your systems; it's in somebody else's systems.
Absolutely.
Right.
They're licensing it. They're licensing this as a service, as we speak. Whether it's a term, whether it's usage, you name it. But to your point, you know, I think we have to talk about why these models started to come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was, in your opinion, Hari? We saw some of these first SaaS models or software as a service, as they call it, as ways of letting people try things out. Was it a try then buy approach, or was it, you know, hey, we can develop on a platform and have one source code and everybody uses it as a multi-tenancy type application? Or, you know, what are some of the key
what
thoughts
drove it,
behind?
right?
Yeah, what drove the
I think we can,
behaviors?
brainstorm some of those, right? I think some of those truly, hold today. Of course, you have the ability to literally turn on and off, just like what you said, utility, right? You have electricity. If you want it, you can turn it on. If you don't want it, you turn it off. And then you also mentioned scalability, right? If you are, building 5 houses and, you don't want to put a transformer out there and, guess what? Somebody else has transformer out there already. You're just turning the tap on. So again, efficiently scaling and being able to kind of replicate that on a very fast basis, I would say. You're also seeing the ability to really get upgrades, right? You don't have an infrastructure, you don't have to maintain anything, you don't have to spend a lot of money in upgrading things because it's all being done by the vendor, right?
So would you say that's traditionally a big pain in the past?
I
People
believe so,
upgraded.
right? I think
Think
early
so?
on, I think it was a big pain, right? I think though that's a big transition that I see. I think that's what you're getting at, right? It's
Yeah.
back in the day having the right system, the right operating system, the right version of the operating system with the right type of application to run on it and have the right resources to be on site to do it and support it. And when something breaks, somebody has to be flown out to fix it. But all that was suddenly attractive because none of that existed. It's suddenly shifted. Now, one piece that we didn't mention is beyond the technology, there is this element of commercial strategy where you have, hey, you can shift your cost from CapEx to OpEx. You don't have to pay for this amazing Photoshop application that costs you $700 to buy, but you pay me $20 forever, every month.
or
So
as long as you like it, or as long as you like
as
it,
long
right?
as you like it, but you're paying me 400 or 450 every month or every year, as opposed to maybe 700 for lifetime, right? And so there was a shift in that cost structure, which also benefited a lot of people. Hey, I don't want to spend too much money, on something that I don't know is going to work. And I also believe a lot back in the day, right? It wasn't that long ago where people would companies would hand vendors millions of dollars and say, hey, this is what I want. Go build it for me. This is exactly what I want, the weight one, and this is how my people want to use this product. Go build it. Nobody else has it. I don't care. Go build it. This is what I want, right? But that's gone away to standardization, where say, hey, everybody has almost the same stuff, right? Customization is limited to minimal. It exists, but there is less effort on customizing to the nth degree. Maybe more.
So,
Yeah.
are we really talking about the effort, the infrastructure, the heavy lifting that it takes just to get to the point of trying to create value with your digital tools? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're getting to a point, right? You're hitting a very interesting point there that we've been as fast as technology changes, we've decided to say, you know what? We don't want to be in the hardware game because that's evolving so fast for us to even think about how to maintain the the hardware infrastructure, the costs, the you name it, right? So why don't we take that piece out of it and just worry about the true value and results of what software or modeling and what data can bring to us now. Let's get to the meat of it. Let's
Yeah.
not try to build the house when we want to live in it already,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's that type of mindset that we need why do we need to build something that's already built, right? And how can we scale that and leverage, you know, mainly a lot of the power, the horsepower technology that's already available, right? And
Yeah.
how do we leverage that across everybody? Everyone benefits in some way at a price point that anybody can play now, right?
That's true.
And you're right. It's a very interesting shift, but
But it was also given, I guess it became so strong because of the technology shift, right? You now have cheap compute available in the cloud, and the bandwidth became cheaper, and thereby uh, the ability for a remote worker or person or anybody who's accessing this solution or system could, with not much of a lapse, could easily access and interact with it as if it's on your desktop, right? And that give way to this. Otherwise, you wouldn't sit there and work on a software that isn't fast enough or interactive enough. You're not going to do that. So technology has given us the ability to make that shift.
and I think with that shift, a lot of the horsepower and crunching and where all that the hardware is basically residing is in big warehouses and big
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure play, right?
Yeah.
Which allows us not to worry about having that real estate on us to be able to compute that much power to be able to access this data, and I think we talked about it a little bit on our last episode where you can have something as small as this,
Mm-hmm.
but in the background,
Yeah.
as a service, it's everything that you ever wanted. Every picture you ever taken in your life, every video that you ever had, it's there. And it won't ever go away.
So are we
It's there
saying
for
this
you.
is all then rosy and fantastic and it's the right thing for the customer?
I think in the short term, it could be, right? As we start evolving and becoming more, um, you know, unglued to our laptops and our PCs, and pretty soon we're going to be unglued to our phones. I mean, I almost see that the mobile will be the new PC or laptop very soon.
Right.
To what? That's something that is for another episode. But I eventually see that being archaic already,
Right.
right? I mean, the way we're moving. And with that being said, is how you access and have this information so readily available for you to do things with, right?
Yeah.
Interact with the world, interact with decision making across all different platforms, different information. And I think that provides value to the individual. But at what point do we say, or do people say, for me to access critical information that I've grown to accustom. Like, I don't want to have a laptop. I don't want to store this data, but the data is important to me. But now you're saying I have to pay to store this valuable data that I like
Yeah.
for the rest of my life to use or to access. How does that change the way I think about, you know, these types of models, the way that the
Do
information is
you
really
care
not.
if it's your data? It's safely stored away. If you didn't, you would have, one of those systems that you see on the back. I have one of those Synology drives. You got your own private storage. You could have that. Um, but it's you're paying for resiliency, right? I mean, my systems could go down. It could you could be hit with a lightning strike, and that could smoke. But I don't think an Amazon data center is going to smoke that easily. And if they do, they have proper, backup systems and high availability systems in place. So you're paying for high availability, high resilience to your data. But again, that's my point of view. But I am more concerned about something that is really not that much in your control, and that is data privacy, confidentiality. You know, um, what guarantee do you have that your data is secure, and people are not tracking you from a privacy perspective? Are they recording things that you don't want? Your vendor or your provider, service provider is or shouldn't be recording, right? And how can I trust? Like every other day, you have an enterprise coming out and saying, "Hey, sorry guys, we lost your data. Don't worry, we'll pay for 1 year of your insurance policy so that you wouldn't lose this data again." But who cares? It's already out there, you know. My credit card number, my social security, my birth date, all of this is out there. What are you going to protect now? So my point is, you know,
That was a one-time deal. Don't
it's a
worry about
yeah.
it.
Don't worry
That's
about it until
don't
the
worry
other
about
guy
it.
does it.
It's not. Yeah. But I think you're we tend to walk away from the importance of this data and how very cavalier or very loosely
Yeah.
we put the trust and faith
Yeah.
into very minimal or very few. That all it takes is a few, direct, you know, attacks on certain infrastructure to really affect the masses in a way that people really don't, to be honest, may not even know,
Hmm.
right? There's a lot of things that might be happening that we may not even know,
Right.
right? Because it's outside of our purview.
We don't
We don't
know.
see
We
it.
just don't know, right? We don't
As
know
long
what's
as
yeah.
long as the power comes up and I can access it,
Yeah.
everything seems fine, you
So
know?
both of us can argue. I mean, we know SaaS very well. We've been in the industry, many industries, right? We know and understand this, and we could easily place arguments that a SaaS is more secure than somebody maintaining, a shaky data center with shaky security, both physical and network based, right? You could easily argue, a cloud-based system could be more secure. But like you said, you don't know their security. They just tell you that they're secure, right? You're just trusting them for their word, right? Until they prove otherwise. Even the best of brands prove you otherwise, right?
So with that being said, you know, as you develop as people start developing SaaS types of applications,
Hmm.
do they lose credibility when their reliability of their software is not available? It's not robust. It's the latency is tough. I can't access things fast enough. It's going
Hmm.
slow. I keep
Absolutely.
getting so so when we think about that, SaaS models in a way they're incentivized to be, you know, it pays to be sticky, to be valuable, to be liked, and to be
Hmm.
useful and to have value. Because once you're in that ecosystem of that value, it's hard for people to say, "Hey, where's the better alternative that I need?" Right?
Yeah.
And in the past, it wasn't as easy to turn things off and turn things off to try different styles of applications. You had to buy one and just own it. You upfront cost. I'm using this for the next
Hmm.
2 years, 3 years, or whatever, and that is what it is. And then maybe in 3 or 4 years, when it's time, when I feel the value that I've gotten the value out of the applications,
Yeah.
I may switch or may not switch or get that upgrade. And that's not the case anymore, right? So I think in a way, it it provides a unique opportunity for the consumer
Hmm.
in that they're able to try and buy, and really figure out what they want. But on the other hand,
Once you get on the bus, you're on the bus.
that's right. And you're
Can't get
almost
off
locked in.
easily.
Once you're in, that's it. Stay in it. Stay in it, right?
So that
But
brings
again,
up a yeah.
but it comes down to what we talked about a couple of episodes as well. Agile, making things better, fast, quicker, sprints. Everyone's trying to
Hmm.
keep the customer on the train or in the bus.
Hmm.
And the only way you keep them on the bus is constantly upgrading and give them some nice new features and listening to them and learning and keep getting it better, right? And in a sense, that keeps, you know, the companies that are running these organizations at bay. I mean, really to please the customer. It doesn't stop. It's an ongoing.
That's a big value for the users, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you have them on the hook to continuously make you happy. I mean, that's definitely a value. But on the flip side, you briefly mentioned this. What if you chose another solution that is better for you? Not because you're unhappy with the current provider. This company's taking technology leaps all the time, right? Somebody comes up with a better phone. How do I go from this phone to that other phone? They have a completely different platform. So, where is the data mobility? How do I transfer my data? And can I do that with ease? Now, it's your data. Everybody will tell you that. It's your data. You can run with it. You can do whatever you want. But how easy, how mobile is that data to take from one platform to another, right? The other piece of it is the integration. Back in the day when you had an on-premise application, most likely, the companies themselves maintained that integration. They owned it because you can't have any particular company own an integration between two different software products. It's the nature of integrations, right? It's always somebody pointing the fingers at the other, right? But when it comes to SaaS and the integration is based on RESTful APIs, how easy is the integration, and how complex does it get as one company starts to upgrade on a frequent basis? Like you said, agile methodology in play, and they're moving at a fast pace, and another company is not. You're not in control, right?
Yeah. At some point, you're not, right? And this is where that stickiness starts to come in, and benefits and features and differentiation across different competitive landscapes. Is, you know, if you want to take market share, right? If you want to take market share from your competitors, you have to make things easy for them to switch, right? It's got to
Mm-hmm.
be painless, right? The pain has got to be greater to be with the current customer
Yeah.
versus the switch, right? The switching pain. Um, or, you know, the the benefits are just too good that I would go over and sacrifice the pain just to get to the other side because I know it's going to be so awesome, even though it's going to be hard to get over.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be tough to get my data, as you mentioned, maybe migrate, do all sorts of things, right? And I think those are the questions that, you know, I think in the future people are going to have to really understand because
And
we're
question.
start, yeah, in question because SaaS models for everything. It used to just be for one software application, but now it's in every app, it's in everything you touch, it's in all the intricacies of what you're trying to do. And how are all these silos of applications or SaaS programs going to integrate with themselves to help you in your overall world?
And even
And you,
worse, how do you manage all of these SaaS
yeah,
applications and
think about all
subscriptions? You
your
know,
passwords.
yeah.
Just think about all your passwords for all the things you have to log into these days. I mean, if you think about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, about the number of logins and passwords that you had versus today, how much has that grown? It's grown by the numbers,
Which
right?
is probably why companies like Okta is flying high with valuations.
It's another piece, right?
Yeah.
It's and you'd see this driven obviously by money, right? This is what we talked about in the beginning is a lot of these growth companies love to see that annual recurring revenue. They love to see the stickiness. They love to see you growing logos. They love to see you address that total addressable market and go after it and see that it's big because to them, it's all about financials, right?
So that's a question that I have for you. Maybe that's the last one that we hit before we wrap up. We start, I guess 10 years ago, the valuation of software companies, were in the multiples of 3 to 5. Then it started growing up to 4 to 7, and then start to further climb up, and now it is anywhere from 10x to 20x or even higher than that in some cases, right? Is that a
Hmm.
bubble? Is that a craze that people are after software companies that are now starting to look overvalued, or is it just reality because that's the future?
Well, I think it's the flavor, it's the rise, but as you start to see more and more players come in, the valuations across everything will start to show itself, right? I mean, you could think about just the big tech names themselves, right? You look at, some of the FANG stocks, right? You got what, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, you name it. All of these are SaaS
Yeah.
models, right? But they're also in different categories. You have
Uh-huh.
a media company,
Yeah.
you have a discretionary spending, you have an advertising and search engine, you have a social media company. Uh, they're all in different categories, but they're all
Absolutely.
SaaS growth, and they're looked at as technology. They're almost blindly looked at as a technology stock, but they're really not technology stocks. They're just behave like them because they have this type of SaaS model or annual recurring revenue model, the stickiness of it.
Or hardware as a service model. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you're starting to see this trend kind of come up is can you keep them on the track? And how long can you keep that customer, that total lifetime of that customer?
So the
And
attraction is more towards the commercial model rather than just
I think I
the
think
initial concept that we talked about,
I think the commercial model and the investment is pouring into that type of modeling. You'll
which
have a lot of
guarantees you revenue for the
revenue,
foreseeable future.
it
Yeah.
gives you the startup money. And unfortunately, what you'll start to see is companies that will just look at starting software and not really starting to develop what's really valuable for the company. They'll start with the software first and try to get that seed money and then eventually grow into what their really core value is. Sometimes you'll find I don't know who was it that mentioned that they developed a very cool hardware technology, but they weren't getting into any investment because people didn't see that they had a an annual recurring
Yeah.
strategy on
Yeah.
their tickets
Yeah.
to throw the money in. He says, no, this is our investment
Add
strategy. We
some
got to
sort of
stay.
software on top of it, put a subscription model. Now you're suddenly three to
Here
five,
comes the money.
10 to 20
Here
times
comes the
valuable.
money. Here comes the money.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
so you start to get that type of thinking, and all of a sudden you start getting the same type of
Yeah.
modeling, product development, even software development, and to some extent you might even think that it might hinder innovation in certain ways because everyone's thinking about the commercial model first versus the what are we actually trying to develop and deliver for customers,
But
right? So
investors are looking for that steady stream of revenue that they can keep track of, and if there is any sort of drop in your customer base. You can you can check their churn rate, and you can see, are people really staying on, and it's pretty clearly visible, right? It's not relying on multi-million dollar deals that come and go, and you have this up and down versus, a hockey stick that they're looking for, right? A very stable,
Well,
high growth
it's
rate.
the fast hyper growth, the quick buck, as they say. You're in and you're out. I have 10 deals. One of them will make it, and that's all I need.
Yeah, and at an early stage that works great. But where that doesn't work is, go through that early stage, and then you have, you launch, you have all the public investors get a early look at that stock, right? And then comes to the public when it's publicly traded, and that's when they really either wither away or they take off, right? And and really, I mean, yes, you're right. 10 out of 100 might become a Slack or a Zoom, right? And there's many that just wither away with public's money. That's the
Yeah.
reality, right?
And that's the game we play, and round we go, and that's the game that's played right now. And then,
Absolutely.
in 10 years, we'll be talking about a different type of game that's being played, right? And this is what it's all about, right? And this is where we are today, and this is
Yep.
what we see, and that's the whole topic, right? And
Yep.
how long do we have before we see a different type of model, right?
Hey, it always changes, right? When you get comfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always transforming, right? Doesn't matter what, just keep transforming because that's what makes money,
All right.
right?
So we're at 7:26. I think we should wrap up, right? And
Absolutely. We'd like to thank everybody for joining. If you get a chance, you can send your comments on Facebook. You can visit us on our website, digitaltwinpodcast.com. And we love your feedback. And thanks for listening. And stay tuned for next week.
hit subscribe. Talk to you soon.